are talking today about this article. To beat the right, we have to understand their arguments, which is obviously, I don't read everything that Matt writes because he's obscenely productive, but I do try to read a fair chunk of it, and when I saw the title of this, I was definitely going to read that. That's obviously our bread and butter here. And in it, you're talking about how to think about and respond to the sort of most intellectually sophisticated versions of conservatism. So of course, let's start by talking about James Lindsay.
I just want to say also, Ben, I fucking love the title song for this so much that every time I come on, I get anxious because I think there's no way I can possibly top that song.
That's the correct reaction.
Yeah.
All right. James Lindsay is a fucking lunatic, but we're just going to talk about it for a minute anyway because it's fun, and then we'll get to the meatier conservative stuff after that.
This is much more worthy of our time. Believe me, I'll always take a few minutes to dunk on James.
All right, so of course I was going to, I was actually scheduled. I was going to see you in person in a couple of weeks. For the first time in a couple of years. But that couldn't happen because of Canada, has shut down so much stuff because of Omicron. So, later in the spring, maybe I'll do those talks in Toronto. But saw that our friend Conceptual James has some thoughts about Omicron. So here's something he tweeted earlier this week. The new big lie is that Omicron is mild if and only if you're vaccinated and boosted. He goes on to say, they're deploying a limited hangout, look it up, to gain credibility so they can push this new lie. Omicron is mild for everyone, thus also for the vaccinated and boosted, and they're tucking in the only if part by implication. They're playing you again, suckers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the only if part is so difficult for a mathematician to grasp, because I would have thought that this would be a pretty easy bit of reasoning to follow, but I guess once your IQ reaches 300 and you just see beyond the pale horizon that most of us call reality, you just can't grasp little things like that anymore. Your head is filled with too many big ideas.
Yeah. It's funny, a while ago, a much smarter conservative than James Lindsay, Sohrab Ahmari, had said something sort of creepy and bizarre about. There was in reply. There had been this little mini controversy. I think when was this? Like mid 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Stevens had said something in the New York Times about Ashkenazi Jews being genetically more intelligent, and it was kind of weird and race sciencey, and people were arguing about it. And Sohrab's intervention in that debate was, I think that, I actually think that the most intelligent people are often furthest from God. Which is actually that subsequent interaction about what you saying there, buddy, is what got me blocked by Sohrab Ahmari. But yeah, so maybe once you get to the hyper intelligent James Lindsay point, you have trouble with this. But seems to me that what everybody is actually saying is not that it's mild only if, right? That's a necessity claim, right? That this is a necessary condition. You are vaccinated, but rather that you're much more likely to get a bad case if you aren't vaccinated, which I thought was a pretty simple distinction. Said that in response. How does a math PhD not understand the difference between only if and much higher probability? And I want you to keep in mind that James Lindsay co-wrote a book about how to have impossible conversations with people whose disagreements with you go so deep that it seems impossible that you'll ever come to a common understanding, but you could just push through it by sheer force of polite reasoning. So this is his response. The math PhD isn't the person having the difficulty, but thank you, Ben, for being a fathead and explaining to people how the game works. And I asked which game this was. Was this the understanding the difference between probability and certainty game? And at that point, he stopped interaction. So there you go, James Lindsay.
I know. Well, I mean, this is a man again whose profundities are sometimes too deep for me. I commented on something you said recently about feminist communism by invoking Wittgenstein's discussion of Kierkegaard, because apparently Wittgenstein once looked at Kierkegaard and just said, "This is too deep for me." And I realized that once you're able to see the interconnection between feminism, liberalism, communism, socialism, big tech, and you realize that these are all one and the same, it's just too much for my little brain to handle. So the mind trembles before it, and I decided to give up.
Yeah, I think we actually need, unless there's one I don't know about, I think that's something there should be a name for when you arrive at the belief that every single thing that you don't like is actually the same thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
'Cause-
Monologism maybe comes to mind.
Yeah, because like this is like the classic example I always think of is Glenn Beck, when he had the show on Fox and he would like draw the connections on his whiteboard and show how like the Weather Underground and the Obama administration and
Yeah.
whatever the bogeyman of the week was all kind of the same thing. But it is anyway. It is impressive, right? Because like we had the slightly less galaxy brain version of it from Jordan Peterson, which was that Marxism equals postmodernism equals blue-haired college kids yelling about pronouns.
Yeah, but that's only a 3-step amalgam, right? It's like
Yes.
blue-haired college kids, Marxists, postmodernists, all of them are one and the same. We haven't quite gotten to the big-brained idea that even corporate elites in big tech also fall into this paradigm in a mysterious way. I guess Jordan Peterson just needs to do a couple more push-ups and eat a little bit more steak, and then he'll see, the veil be lifted, and it'll all become apparent to him.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the Patreon-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the Patreon-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgess. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.